So I won't try to rehearse anything too much because there'll be no point because we're going to be doing a big conversation. I can't rehearse everything, so.
Yeah, exactly. You can over-prepare, I think.
So, yeah, are you happy to get started?
Aye.
Cool. Well, thanks for agreeing to do the podcast, Ian. Basically, we've known each other for a long time, about 10 years or so.
Yep.
And when I first met you, you've been lifting weights for quite a while already, and you were squatting about 110 kilos. About 140.
About that.
About 140.
Yeah.
About benching about 110. Be deadlifting about 160.
At the most, yeah.
And you were training hard. You've been training hard for a long time, and you felt stuck. And then over those 10 years, I've seen you go from strength to strength, getting stronger and stronger, more than twice as strong, despite already being at like what just about everyone would consider a good level of strength outside of powerlifting and things like that. And you, most recently, you had a major milestone in your journey. You went to Paris and competing in the World Championships for the drug-free powerlifting. And you hit a new world record squat and won your weight class. And I think like there's obviously a lot of lessons you've learned along the way that will be helpful to other people. Some of them we've talked about before, some we've probably not even talked about. And I just thought there'd be a lot of stuff, lessons you've learned that could be really helpful. So yeah, thanks for agreeing to this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thanks for having me on. I know we've had a lot of good talks over the years and you've been very supportive along the way. And yeah, I have learned a lot, so hopefully there'll be some things that are helpful if you're interested in, or people are interested in strength training. Naturally, hopefully that there's some things that I can help with or point you in the right direction.
Aye, absolutely. Yeah, so just from the start, like, would you like to say just a little bit about yourself and your journey you've been on, how you got into training and that kind of thing, and maybe some personal highlights about what you've achieved?
Yeah, so I'm 33 now, so 34 next month, but I've always been into sports since I was young, since I was as long as I can remember, really.
Yeah.
But football, even golf. But I was really into judo, and I started lifting weights when I was about 14. But at the time, it was mostly for judo to help me with that, and it did help me. But there was no real structure to what I was doing at the time. It was more doing it when I had the chance and had a rough idea what I was doing. Just went in and worked hard rather than having any sort of structure to it. But I noticed that when I was... So I got my black belt in judo, which I always wanted.
Brilliant.
But what I was noticing was at that time, I was losing my motivation to train and to go. And I just, no matter what I did, I just couldn't get it back.
Right. What age were you about here?
I was about... I would say I got my black belt when I was 21, but for the 2 years before that, I was struggling with... I was forcing myself to go. I was relying on sort of discipline, if you want to call it that, rather than being motivated. So when I got my black belt, I was still going to judo, even though I wasn't enjoying it as much. And I remember I clashed heads with somebody.
Oh, really?
I had a really bad accident when I was 24. And that led me into having hospital visits, being in hospital for a bad accident, and it was a difficult time. I was having all these thoughts, hallucinating and thinking, what's wrong with me here? And then eventually I recovered from that, but it was during that time when I had, anxiety and whatever because of how I was feeling, and I used to think mental health was a load of nonsense till it happened to me.
Yeah.
And then that's how I got into becoming a counsellor. But it was during that time that I started wondering how there must be a better way in how to lift weights even though my desire for my judo had more or less gone, since I was about 3 or 4, I've always wanted to be strong,
Yeah.
and that's never left me. So I
Uh-huh.
thought there must be a way that I can train
Yeah.
for strength here, and there must be a way it can be done properly, because 80 years ago, before people were using steroids,
Aye.
people got strong. So there must be a way,
Yeah.
rather than what you see online,
Aye.
well, whatever all the nonsense that you see online. So
Yeah.
that's when I joined the John Wrights, and then I met you at that time,
Yeah.
and then you had obviously a lot of helpful advice for me, and that's when I started training, and that was 10 years ago nearly, and I've now squatted 340 kilos, bench pressed 200 kilos, and I've deadlifted 290. So that squat was without anything on my knees as well, so it was a really,
Absolutely. Yeah.
really pleased with that, and I'm still got as much desire. I would say my desire, it's the novelties of it's maybe worn off a bit,
Yeah.
but I would never miss a workout or anything like that,
Yeah.
because I know that there's a long-term goal. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's how it
Yeah.
all started for me.
Yeah. That's some journey. Yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Um, and yeah, with the World Championships being in November there, what was that like? You know, both the preparation for it and the actual event itself.
Well, I think I learned quite a lot from the preparation and from the event. So preparation went well, but it went as well as it could have went from what I was doing in training. So I think I cut out the volume. So what we call volume, the amount of sets and reps you're
Yeah.
doing before the competition. I was trying to peak by getting rid of as much fatigue as I could
Yeah.
by cutting the volume down. But I felt that I cut it too much, and I lost a bit. My strength wasn't where I wanted it to be on the day.
Yeah.
But, I can't really complain. So setting the world record, 320 and a half kilo squat. Bench press was a bit down on the day, 175. Deadlifted 280. Deadlift seems to do well with
Uh-huh.
less sets and reps, but in the build up. But the squat and the bench don't, so you're always
Yeah.
learning, and I'm
Absolutely. Yeah.
always keeping a note of what happens with these things. But the competition itself was a great experience, because my dad was with me, and
Yeah.
I had a lot of nice messages from my friends and my family telling me, wishing me good luck, and it was good. I was kind of so focused on it though that I didn't see much of Paris.
Yeah.
I was in eating, sleeping in the hotel room, and making sure I was ready and recovered.
Yeah.
But when I squatted when I set the world record, and they said it they announced it over the microphone, and then I got it. I could see my dad. I was looking at me, was getting a bit emotional, and I was thinking, "What's wrong with you?" Because he's not normally like that, but
Uh-huh.
I know it was because he was proud of me, so that meant
Yeah.
a lot.
Absolutely.
And I was laughing because that's what he was looking like, a tear in his eye, and I've
Aye.
never seen that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it
Must
was
have
a
been so
great
proud of you.
experience. Aye, great experience to go over there, and it was just, it was amazing, because you want to reach that kind of level
Yeah.
when you start, but it's hard to believe that you will, even though you hope.
Yeah.
But that gave me a lot of belief to show that it's definitely possible. And if I can do it, then other people can too, and other people have done it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what would you say are some of the main lessons that you've learned along the way in this journey to go from where you not where you even started, but where you were, like, say, just about 10 years ago, like squatting 140 kilos, up to squatting 340 in the gym 320.5 in competition, and you know, the bench and the deadlift.
Would say, yeah, what I've learned probably to be determined, to be consistent. Obviously, you have holidays, you might have injuries,
Yeah,
that can't be helped. You need to have time to enjoy yourself, but when you can, it's really important to stick to your
yeah,
training, and also not to change too much at the one time. And when you're writing your programs out, you know, if you jump from one thing to another, you're never going to know exactly what works for you. So I think it's important to find the right amount of training in terms of how often you're training, how much in the day, how heavy. And if something's not working, to make small changes rather than, you know, throwing it out the window and concentrating on another program that's completely different.
yeah,
So keep a note of everything. You know, add weight over time, get enough sleep, eat enough, and eventually, you know, you'll, especially at first, you're going to improve doing that
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Of course.
and focus on the basic movements that have worked for years.
Yeah,
You don't need gimmicky exercises or things that people say work that have just come out of the blue. You know, you've squat, bench press, deadlift. If you're into powerlifting, you might not even use an overhead press. I definitely think things like barbell rows can be good to really build the muscle for the back, the strength to keep upright in the squat, to help your deadlift, and to help your bench press. It gives you that base on the bench.
yeah,
And then once you've found maybe where, get to a point where you are struggling to improve, then that's where you can add more in to maybe concentrate on your weak points. And when you're picking exercises for your weak points, like, you know, the lockout for the bench press, I'm using this rack at the moment,
yeah,
and I'm programming them the same way that I'm programming my main lifts. Maybe taking them a bit, maybe training them slightly harder. I think people often think that these things don't matter, but you're doing them for a reason, you know, and
yeah,
they're very important.
yeah,
Being patient as well, finding out what you can recover from, not what people say you should be able
yeah,
to. What works for you works for you. For example, I'm only deadlifting once every 2 weeks,
yeah,
squatting once a week. When I first started, I was squatting 3 days a week, and that worked. But because the weights are so heavy now, I can't recover. I'm down to once a week and
yeah,
still progressing. So if you feel you're beat up, exhausted, and your strength's going backwards, you're probably overtraining or overreaching, they say now,
yeah,
don't they? So yeah, keeping an eye on everything, writing everything down. I think I've got 1,100 or more workouts written down.
1100.
I've got complete. There's 100 in each book, so
Brilliant.
I think it's really important to keep a note of everything, see what
Yeah,
works for you, and make changes, and believe that it's possible, because it is. I think a lot of people go in thinking that it can't be done or it's never been done, but it can be. You know, you can
yeah.
get a lot stronger than you are at the moment.
Oh,
Definitely.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So this kind of ties into a lot of what you were talking about there, with like what you think is important when you're getting stronger. I think you've pretty much covered most of those. Are there anything you didn't cover that you feel you'd like to add and that you think is important for getting stronger?
Yeah, I would say I think you can get the results anywhere you train if you're determined enough.
Yeah,
Um, as long as you have the basic equipment. I think it's, you know, important to spend the time to learn barbell movements, because they'll give you the most beneficial results.
yeah,
If machines, I don't use any, but I think they can only take you so far Progress in the main lifts is the main thing. I train in here now
Yeah.
full time,
Uh-huh.
and and I think that I've got no distractions in here. I've got nobody
Yeah.
really that's going to come up and put me off or talk to me. That's just the way my mind works. I'm
Uh-huh.
happy, and there's nothing fancy about what's in here. So
Yeah.
I think that it's really important to just have a goal, work towards it,
Yeah.
and concentrate on the basic movements, progressing over time. And I think a lot of people, especially young boys, will come in and neglect their legs and their back. It's a lot of
Definitely.
this chest and biceps training, but they wonder why they don't make progress when they're not gaining weight, although you don't need to gain it too quickly. But
Yeah.
it's the leg and the back training that give you the best results in terms of overall size. I think
Definitely.
everything grows when you do that.
Yeah.
If people are looking at that sort of bodybuilding style thing, strength training's what's got me to where I am. That bodybuilding style training didn't do anything for me other than small bits of progress at first.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously we know it works differently if you're taking drugs
Yeah.
or
Of
steroids,
course.
growth hormone, then it does work differently. But yeah, definitely I would say that would be what's important. I don't think fancy equipment's
Yeah.
necessary. You can get
Uh-huh.
the results anywhere if you're
Yeah.
determined enough, I think.
Definitely. And how would you describe that kind of bodybuilding style of training that didn't work for you?
Well, they come in, they'll say chest and arms, one chest and back, then the next day shoulders and arms, then maybe legs and abs or whatever. And there's no consistency or overload to it or progression. They're not
Yeah.
concentrating on the weight they're lifting, they're more concentrating on this, the pump, the
Yeah.
burn, the feel, that stuff. Because you're completely detrained, a lot of people from being inactive, that might get you to a certain level, but it won't get you results in the long term. So, concentrating for me on getting your squat up to 200 kilos, your legs are going to be bigger.
Aye.
If you get your bench press up to 200 or say 120, you're going to have bigger chest, bigger triceps. Deadlift, you're going to have a bigger back, and rows, heavy barbell rows. Concentrating on them getting stronger, and as well, it's really important to eat enough as well. Although you don't need to gain weight too quickly.
Aye. Aye.
I think
Yeah.
that can be a gradual thing. I've went the wrong way and eaten far too much to
Right.
get stronger. Although it's helped my strength, I went overboard with it.
Okay.
People say you've lost your your looks, your physique maybe, but you can get that back.
Of course. Yeah.
With if that's what you want to do, and I think gaining weight slowly is more beneficial than gaining loads of weight. Um, Unless you don't mind about going up a few trouser
Right.
sizes. But yeah, definitely. So gaining weight slowly is really important. But that bodybuilding style training, just I've never seen it work for anybody that's not enhanced, as they say.
Yeah. I know. I think a big part of like results in training is to do with a person's hormones, and I think that that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. It's that exercises like squats with a bar on your back, deadlifts, bench presses, rows, all these kind of exercises that you've made the main part of your program. These are the sort of exercises that create a big hormonal response in a person, which helps them put on muscle. It's not just about working a muscle. It's not just about that. That's why it's definitely not the same to exhaust, your quads with leg extensions or your triceps with push downs or something as it is to, to get a lot of fatigue from doing squats or bench presses or overhead presses or something. And
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
do these kind of more basic compound exercises with free weights and or body weight, you create that powerful hormonal response that helps you build muscle as well as simply just working the muscles. Whereas with all the sort of more bodybuilding style of training, where it's mostly focused on a lot more machines and isolation exercises, and obviously these things aren't worthless. Me and you use some of these things in our training as well. But when the bulk of your training is machines and single joint movements, like leg extensions and bicep curls, you don't get that hormonal response. But then for people who are taking stuff, that they're already putting that into their bodies anyway, so they don't have to. It doesn't matter for them, and I think there's aspects to that as well about it's easier for them to get injured, so they need to kind of watch what they're doing more than a natural trainee and things like that as well. Yeah.
definitely. It's even in powerlifting, we've seen it where somebody's bicep tears off the bone deadlifting,
Yeah.
and like you say, it's for a natural lifter. There's really no replacement for these basic movements,
Yeah.
and I know definitely. I think that this was something that was realised a long time ago, like
Absolutely.
the 20 reps breathing squats to improve the rib cage size in the chest and all this. And yeah, I think with these things, I say you've got somebody at 7 or 8 stone and they're doing bicep curls only. How often do you see somebody that's that size and then all of a sudden they have big arms? It
I
only
know.
happens if they take something.
I know.
You really need to be gaining overall body weight
Yeah.
with the big exercises.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely.
And I mean, I think the body needs to be in balance as well. Like it
Aye.
instinctively, like it automatically tries to keep you in balance. That's why, like, for example, if that person starts doing leg exercises like squats, their biceps will probably get bigger. Like their body would otherwise hold them back. Because
Aye.
it does. And the same with if they weren't working their triceps and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you were saying that, like that hormonal response, I couldn't believe the difference that I saw when I switched to that training almost straight away.
Yeah.
With the progressive overload on these exercises. It was
Yeah.
a massive difference. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit there as well, but so what do you think isn't important for getting stronger? Maybe things that other people do. We've talked a bit about that there. Is there anything else you'd like to say about that?
Anything else that isn't important? I don't think it's important to. Well, it's not necessary, I would say, to spend 5 hours a day in the gym.
Yeah.
I'm in the gym probably 4 or 5 hours a week.
Really?
Yeah, at the moment. So people often think the more you do, the better. And it's really not like that.
Yeah.
Although, if that's what it did take, then it's something I think I would do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not what it takes. It's about progressing, but making sure you can recover. So when you've done, say, 5 sets of 5 on the squat, coming in the next week, if you're going backwards, you've maybe either not done enough or you've done too much in the previous session,
Yeah.
or there's fatigue that's built up over time. So yeah, I would say that working hard's good, but you can work too hard and you can spend too long in the gym.
Yeah.
So that's when it becomes really important to log what you're doing, see how you're feeling, You know, is my motivation down? Have I got aches and pains? Have I got injuries?
Yeah.
Then maybe you know you're doing too much. But if you're feeling great, motivated, feeling really up for the workouts, it's not a chore for you, and you're still not making progress, maybe you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
So you can take time to add a set in here and there, add a set, maybe increase the weight in the bar, do something more than what you're doing at the moment, but do it slowly. Don't jump into 10 sets of 10, you know.
Yeah.
It's really important to gradually increase what you're doing and gradually take away what you're doing if you need to, until you find what you can recover from while still getting stronger.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, being very methodical. So, like you say, just changing one thing at a time and not changing too much at once in one direction or the other. So you got a better idea of what's working and what's not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
sure. Um, and what would you say are the main elements of your preparation just now? In terms of goals, training environment. We talked about that a little bit. Your program and your recovery, things like that.
Yeah, so goals, I would say I'd like to bench press 200 kilos in competition.
Brilliant.
I'd like to deadlift 320 in competition, and I'd like to squat 400 kilos
Yeah.
if I can.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You're well on your way.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm aiming for. Training environment for me, it's great. There's nothing that I really need other than this. My training at the moment, how does it look? So Monday it'll be either a heavy-ish bench press or a light bench press. So I'll
Okay.
do 8 doubles on a Monday, and then on the following Monday I'll do 6 fours. Sometimes I'll add in a heavy single just to see how it feels. So I might do
Yeah.
180 or something to
Sure.
see how that feels.
So
And it, yeah,
do you usually do that before your working sets or
before, yeah.
before? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, it's important, I think, to get the best gauge on where you are, to have, no fatigue or
Oh yeah. Yeah.
when you're doing that heavy single. So doing that on a Monday. Tuesday, I'll either do deadlifts. Tuesday will either be deadlifts and block pulls and then row. And then the following Tuesday, I'll do back extensions and row. I found that deadlift, block pulls, row and back extensions, it's too much for me to recover from.
Right.
So I do a deadlift one week and a back extension the following week. 45-degree back extension with a barbell on the squat rack. Then a Wednesday I'll do incline bench, just 5 sets of 5.
Okay.
Friday I'll do pin press, which is to help my lockout on the bench press. And that's really had a big effect, a big positive effect on my strength at the lockout. And then I actually do a curl, so with the easy bar curl, which has really helped my row, which has helped my squat, believe it or not.
I remember you telling me that, and I think that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I remember you telling me, you'd heard somebody else say,
Uh-huh.
how can one lift help another lift? It
Yeah.
helps another lift.
It was when I was at the Elite FTS Learn to Train seminar in Ohio.
Aye.
And it was Dave Tate who was talking about that, about how you've got your competition lift, and then you've got your lifts, your assistance exercises that you choose to improve the main lift. But then you can even go one step further and start choosing exercises to improve the lift that improves the
Aye,
lift.
yeah.
So for example, doing close grip bench presses to improve the normal bench press, doing skull crushers to improve the close grip, that kind of thing. But what you found was something similar with your squat, your bent over rows and your bicep curls, wasn't it?
That's right. So I knew that my squat, every time it got me saying 90% of what I could do for a maximum single, I would start rounding over in my back, and I knew that I had to get my bent over rows up to a certain level to strengthen my upper back muscles, the rhomboids, the traps, the lats. So my row was stuck at about maybe 5.5s at 90 kilos.
Right.
So I added in curls, and now I'm up doing rows at 150 kilos, and I don't round over at all, unless it's, a maximum weight.
Yeah.
But I was rounding over at like 170 on the squat,
Right.
whereas now I don't round over at all until I'm up at well over 300 kilos. So
Right. And you were
it's made
rounding
a
over.
big difference.
You were rounding over at 170. That was when your max was at 240. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah. So so it wasn't even as if it was like 90%, 95% or something.
aye,
Yeah. But
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a Friday, and then on a Saturday, all I do is squats. I do, on a heavy day, I'll do 8 doubles, medium 8 triples, and then on a light day, I do 6 fours,
Brilliant.
different weights each week. And the way I'm progressing is that I know that if I go into 80% or more of my 1 rep max on a heavy day, I start to go stale and I start to go backwards. So I'm even just increasing on a heavy day the weight by 2.5 kilos every 3 weeks. So every third week I'd squat heavy, and I'll be doing one set at 2.5 kilos more than I had
Right.
done the previous heavy week. So that stops me going into that zone where I start going backwards or get too fatigued, and I hope that I'm progressing at that rate, that I'll never will go into too heavy of a zone
Yeah.
of with the weights. So it lets me increase it slowly but surely. And I think it's good to remember that even though that heavy week could be 265
Okay.
for 8.2s, which isn't that heavy a
Yeah.
weight for me,
What kind of percentage is that roughly?
I think it's close to 80, but it's never over
Just a
80.
little bit below 80%, the high 70s somewhere.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. And that's your heavy day,
and
and you're
that's my
just in the high
heavy day.
70s. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good to remember that even though you're doing that, you might feel like, you're not getting anywhere. That doesn't mean your maximum strength isn't going up slowly but
Yeah.
surely when you're training that way.
Uh huh.
And when a day when you feel good, you can add in a heavy single.
Yeah.
Um, Keep track of how the weights feel week to week. But when you can do a heavy single, then that's showing you that you're progressing.
Yeah.
And again, if you feel like you're doing too much, you're fatigued, you take a bit away or you reduce the weight in the bar. And I think if you're feeling great and not progressing, maybe adding a bit more or
I've
increasing the
got
weight
you.
in the bar.
Yeah.
In my opinion anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's would work.
Brilliant. And I'm sure I remember you mentioning to me there've been times in the squat, I think specifically, where you've hit a new 1 rep max, and in your training before that, like for a long time, you'd never actually lifted anything in excess of somewhere between about 80 and 90% of that weight. So it's not
Yeah.
as if you lifted a new 1 rep max, and the week before that it was 97.5% of
Aye,
that. The week before that was 95. I think you hadn't even lifted 90% of the new 1 rep max, and that just shows that you don't need to train to your absolute maximum to improve your maximum, I think.
definitely. That's what I've found, and everyone wants to have as much weight in the bar as possible. But the closer you get to training to failure, or the closer to what you can lift maximally, the more fatigue it costs, the more it comes at a cost. And you know going up to 90%, 20-minute rest periods, grinding these reps,
Yeah.
I eventually go backwards from
Yeah, I
that.
think we all do. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's even more pronounced the stronger you get. I think that when someone's in the early stages, like, it's highly unlikely that they're going to hit a new 1 rep max when the heaviest thing they've lifted in training before it was 80%. You know, maybe it's probably going to be more closely to 95% for them. But I think the stronger you get, the more you get out of lower percentages, you know, because it
Definitely.
still is a heavier absolute weight and things like that. Like,
Yeah,
is that consistent with what you've
oh,
experienced?
definitely. Definitely. And I think that maybe beginners can and should stick to,
Yeah,
that they can and should do that, because I know that the link between hypertrophy, like muscle size, maybe you do need to train a bit closer to failure,
yeah,
which is what I did, what a lot of beginners can do and still get stronger from it.
yeah,
Muscle size is one of the main things that we can control if people want to get as strong as possible.
yeah,
So maybe
absolutely.
training a bit closer to failure for them is useful for size and strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So the next question's about the psychological preparation. So you've mentioned part of this before, you know, about getting to the worlds, and you didn't get to do much sightseeing because you were focused on the event and things like that. You know, in the training environment lets you focus on your training without distractions and things. But just in terms of the, you know, your psychological preparation, like, you know, enduring and before and during training and in general, you know, self-belief, concentrating and stuff. What would you say about that, you know, in terms of, you know, any advice you would give for someone who's looking to get stronger? And yeah, that was kind
Yeah,
of a new subject to them.
yeah. So I think it's always good to have a goal, or you know, it's when I've got a competition or when someone's has a goal, it might be, you know, just that you have a day that you want to test your strength,
Yeah,
or a certain goal weight that you want to achieve, or it's a competition that there's more of a motivation to train when you've got that goal, I think.
yeah,
And it's easier to get up for training and enjoy it, and
yeah,
feel that you've really done something, that you're working towards a goal. So I would say that my mind is, it's a good thing, but it's also might not be good for everyone to think this way. But you know, I've always had it where I have to, if I don't win or do well, it's a disaster.
yeah,
You know, and I think you were there with me at the British Open when
yeah,
I failed on one of my squat attempts, and I
yeah,
was so disappointed myself. I remember going to a judo grading was going for my brown belt, and I won every fight, and
yeah,
there was no happiness to it.
really,
It was just a relief. And there was another boy that was going for his brown belt, lost every fight. And I said to him, "How are you? How are you feeling after that?" He said, "No, I feel good.
yeah,
I've, I've learned. I've gave it a go." And I said to him, "I think that's great that you can think that way."
yeah,
So my mind gives me this, like, the psychological preparation and the belief to do really good things, but I also have really high expectations of myself. And if I don't reach them, then I'm very disappointed.
yeah,
But my advice would be is have those goals, but you know, it's easier said than done. I'm maybe not the best person to say have those goals, but go and enjoy it, and don't put too much pressure on yourself on the
yeah,
day, especially at your first competition. I think it's really good to be able to go and experience it rather than having to win all the time.
yeah,
Um, I feel that although it's got me to what I feel is a really good world level drug free, and I feel really good training with it. But it's when I go to a competition, if it didn't go well, then that's when
uh-huh,
you're vulnerable to feeling
right,
down or whatever. But I think it's important to have those goals, be motivated, and aim for something, but at the
Right.
same time, don't don't think that it's a disaster
Yeah.
if you don't achieve them,
Uh-huh.
because success will come if you keep working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the next question is about steroids. You know, especially the idea that you need them to lift X, Y, and Z. Weight. Bench 140 kilos or 180 or something. And what you would say to someone, who thinks that they could never get, to a certain level of strength or lift X amount of weight without taking them, because obviously that it's a big thing in powerlifting and kind of gym culture in general, and a lot of people seem to think this, that you can only get to this level without strength, without taking something, and and me and you have got beyond that, and we know countless people who've got beyond that,
Yeah.
and there's people competing at the highest levels who aren't taking anything, and that me and you would be genuinely shocked if we found out that
Aye.
wasn't the
Yeah.
case. So what would you say to someone that thinks along those lines?
I would say that, well, first of all, I would say that I used to think the same thing until you learn how to train properly, until you realise what's possible. You just need to look back at what was achieved before steroids were
Yeah,
invented, when we didn't have as much nonsense on the internet telling us what couldn't be achieved and
yeah,
what had to be done to reach these levels. People like Reg Park, who I believe was natural, Doug Hepburn definitely, got to ridiculous, amazing
yeah.
levels of strength in the 1950s. So it's I would say don't believe that. That there's lots of people, we know somebody in their 50s, don't we, that's
Oh,
done
aye.
very well.
Yeah,
Didn't start till he was in his 40s. So I
yeah,
think it's very, you know, although it's an easy option to say you must take
yeah,
things, it's also not the correct thing, because until you've been on a programme and trained hard for a few years, eaten enough, gained a weight, rested properly, you don't know what's possible until you
yeah.
stick to it for a good
Uh-huh.
5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
So I would say be patient. Don't say that any number or weight is out with your capabilities. You can prove to yourself what's possible,
yeah,
and that the numbers are a lot higher than what you think they are.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree. Yeah. And I think you touched on something there where you were saying it was like, in a sense, it's like the easy route, for someone just to think, oh yeah, like, I'm not doing that well, but I'm not taking anything, so that explains it, like, but it's just like the kind of easy way out. It's like an excuse for for why they're not got to a certain level or something.
Yeah.
And I think we're all different. There's obviously lots of people in the gym who just want to go in and throw around some weights. And they don't want to bench 100 kilos or 140 or whatever. But it's like there's a lot of people who seem to like who claim that they would want to do that, but they can't because they're not taking anything, or because they didn't get started when they were 5 or whatever, and it's just
Exactly.
not the case. It's kind of like an excuse, really, isn't it?
Definitely. And yeah, I think maybe there's a lot of boys in their 18, 19, 20s. A lot of them, I would say. So there are people that don't want to get as strong and big
Yeah,
and strong, but a lot of them do. But they will use that way of getting
yeah.
out of it, or genetics. I mean, if you
Well,
look at your own, you,
yeah.
you if you won't mind me saying, you weren't
Uh-huh.
the naturally strongest
Oh,
person,
yeah. Uh-huh.
and look what you've done.
Yeah,
So
I know. I know. I, I mean, I was really skinny when I got started and wasn't strong at all. And it was funny because I remember, asking people for advice in the gym about advice, like PTs, getting stronger and doing powerlifting and stuff. And I remember saying to one of them, like, how do people get strong enough to lift these weights in powerlifting competitions? Like, is it just genetics? And the PT said to me something like, yeah, it's mostly genetics, but but you can still get stronger, you can still better yourself,
Aye.
But I persevered, and after about 3 or 4 years, I had people coming up to me and saying like, how did you get so strong? Is it just genetics,
Yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
I came up to you.
Yeah,
Yeah. I know, definitely.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's the thing, like, I mean, I've heard this before, but it's just so true when you've actually experienced it in some form, in some area of life. But like, you genuinely don't have any idea what you're capable of until you actually go for it. It's only after you've actually properly went for something for years, dedicated yourself to it, that you're even really allowed a qualified opinion about what
Yeah.
is or isn't possible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what you are, or what you might or might not be capable of.
Exactly.
Aye.
Yeah, completely agree, I think. And Doug Hepburn, believe it or not, was very thin. You wouldn't think to
Yeah.
look at him, but he was like that when he started, and he got up to, I think it was an 800 in America. In those days it was pounds. It still is in America and Canada, but it was an £800 squat. I think it was a £700 deadlift. And then the world record bench press, it was like £550 or something. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, not everyone wants to dedicate their life to it, but
Of course.
just to show what can be done.
Yeah.
I've read his book and it's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, like, don't limit yourself is what I would say.
Yeah. No,
Mentally.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say to someone who would like to get stronger or get into lifting weights or something like that, but they've never actually done that before and they're a bit nervous about it and they're not really sure if they could, that kind of thing?
Well, I think, first of all, I would say remember that although this might be hard to believe, a lot of people, they're more interested in what they're doing than judging you,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, or they're with their friends or whatever. And it's not really important what they think. It's more about that you're going in there and doing something that's beneficial for you. I think that it can be, if you're nervous, barbells and dumbbells are more intimidating than machines, but they're what will give you the best results if you take the time to learn how to do barbell movements using the dumbbells. Dumbbells can be useful. So
Yeah.
taking the time to get somebody like you that knows how to do these lifts, learn a bit about programming, and if you're nervous, then the more you go into that environment, the less nervous you'll be.
Yeah.
And I would say don't trust all personal trainers. I've
Yeah.
seen some of the courses that they go on, and I've spoken to a lot of them.
Aye.
A lot of them have just starved themselves, and they look
Yeah.
good because they've starved themselves, or there's steroids that have been used, but you've got the results to back it up with what you've done in strength training. So I think finding a good personal trainer, remembering that people aren't there just to judge you, or if they are, then that's their problem.
Yeah.
The more you go into the environment, the more you'll feel comfortable in it, and making sure that you learn about the basic movements with the barbells and the dumbbells will be most
Yeah.
beneficial for you, even though they can take time to learn at first, and they can be intimidating for some people compared to sitting on a machine and doing that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
what I would say if you're nervous. Um, so yeah, go and enjoy it
Yeah,
and see how far you can take it if that's what you want to do.
definitely. So, second last question. Did you ever get nervous at any point in your journey, or do you ever still get nervous, with anything to do with your training or competing or anything?
I wouldn't say I get nervous training at all, and I wouldn't get nervous training in a gym anymore. Or I've never really felt like that, but nervous in competitions, yes,
Yeah.
especially the first one. I'm a CBT therapist now, and if I'd
Yeah.
walked out of there, I wouldn't have been much of a CBT therapist, so a counsellor. So
Right.
I had to stick with it. And I think that's where setting the standards comes from that made me nervous. It'd be great if for people to go in and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that would be me. Just the competitions, I get nervous even now, and also I'd like to be able to take my own advice and not get nervous, but it's hard
Yeah.
because it's so important to me.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
shows you care about it.
Uh-huh. No,
That you
absolutely, yeah.
you're going to have some nerves anyway, but the benefit from it is great when you do well or you
Yeah.
spend time with people and you realise that everyone's there at powerlifting to support you.
Yeah.
Nobody's really, although you want to win, nobody's creating a bad atmosphere that they think that you think, they're wanting you to do badly. Everyone's
Yeah.
really helpful. So, no, I don't get nervous training, but I do at competition,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, I think most of us do. And I think I agree, like with you, that it's probably a good thing to be a little bit nervous, because it means you care about it.
Yeah,
It's uh, and one thing I think is that I think that some people, when they think about the idea of doing a powerlifting competition, or they imagine other people doing something like that, they get this idea of this sort of picture of like someone who, from day one was like, oh yeah, a powerlifting competition, let's do this, and just, every step of the way they were just like, oh yeah, no problem, this will be great fun. They don't understand that there's probably hardly any people who'd actually like that.
exactly.
Just about all of us get nervous before competitions. People get really nervous before their first one, and most of us, including me and you, still get nervous
Yeah,
for every competition. But to do it anyway, I think that's something
definitely.
that's interesting, that, everyone from, people who are who've only been lifting weights for a little while and they're doing their first one, up to people who are competing in the worlds like yourself. Nerves is still a part of it. It's not like, if someone's considering doing something like this and they get a little, kind of feel in their stomach, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it. Do you know
Of
what I
course
mean? Like,
not. Yeah, of
you know,
course. Of course not. And you're always glad you've done it, because
yeah,
it takes bravery, it does, to be able to do something like that in front of all those people, it's, not everyone could do it, but it's very rewarding if you do push yourself to, sometimes you do need to just go through things like that to experience
yeah,
the rewards of it.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so I think we've covered absolutely loads of really interesting points. The final question is just really, is there anything we've not talked about that you think might be beneficial for people to hear about? Any last advice, for now that you think might help someone?
Yeah, I would say, you'll never regret a workout, or it's very rare that you'll regret doing a workout, even if you've had a difficult day at work or with a girlfriend or whatever. It always, helps you feel better or lifts your mood when you do train. And the thing about motivation is it often doesn't come itself. It's you most of the time need to get in the gym and do something, and then
Yeah,
the motivation comes
uh-huh,
back or it comes to you.
yeah,
Then you get motivated. It's hard to really just wait on motivation to come to you.
yeah,
It's really good, after every session you think, maybe I can't be bothered today, but you go in and train anyway, and then your motivation comes, right, that was
Yeah.
good, what will I do next week to better that? I think writing down your goals, spending a bit of time thinking about what you'd like to achieve, and then just make that step to go and work towards it.
Yeah.
Every rep you do, every session you do, you're closer towards achieving that goal. So I think, yeah, if it's something that you're interested in, just give it a go, because you never know how far you can
Yeah.
take it. You end up at the World Championships as well. Anyone
Aye.
that's puts the work in over a long time, it's going to be something that you'll be proud that you've done, and yeah, just take that first step, even though
Yeah.
it might be the most difficult one. It'll be really helpful and
Yeah.
beneficial for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, no, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's a lot there. A lot of really helpful advice, and thanks a lot for taking the time, Ian.
Well, thanks very much for having me on, Tom, because I've found it great to talk to you. I see a lot of podcasts where the podcast, the interviewer or whatever they're called, talks over the person, and you've given me the space to answer the questions and tell you what I really think about things. So thanks very much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Cheers, Ian.
Yeah. Cheers,
Right,
Tom. All the best.
you too.